Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Before we get into today's episode, I want to speak directly to the woman who's been doing the work, healing, growing, and showing up for love, but still wondering where it all leads. The Inspired Love Program is an 8-week journey if you're ready to stop performing, stop overfunctioning, and start creating a relationship that meets you in truth, fire, and wholeness. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you are and letting love rise to meet you there. So if you've been feeling the pull to go deeper, to break the pattern for good, or to finally be held in a container designed for the woman you're becoming, this is your invitation. You can find all the details in the show notes, and if that stirs something in you, follow that. Let's start your next chapter right now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Conscious Love Show. Whether you are single, you are in a relationship, or you're healing a broken heart, this show is here to inspire you, to remind you how beautiful, lovable, and amazing you truly are, and to give you the practical tools and insights to navigate from wherever you are right now to the loving relationship that you so deeply want to have. My name is Shane Kohler. I'm a certified transformational coach and trainer with over a decade experience helping people release their trauma and open their hearts to love. I've delivered seminars all over the world, coached thousands of people through my online platforms and programs, and every week I'm coming straight to you with the hottest insights and the best teachers around, bringing you powerful resources and profound conversations to heal your relationship with love, dating, and yourself. I'm so grateful you're here, and if it's your first time, welcome. You can count on me to always show up for you with my very best and a commitment to learn and grow myself so I can serve you to my maximum ability. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. I've got some awesome things planned for you today. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Love Show podcast. Shane Kohler on with you today. Pleasure to be on as always. Got a powerful episode lined up. Today we're talking about why you've done so much work, but still don't feel free. And this is a question that I get constantly. And I have, all different kinds of people in my programs from all around the world. And a lot of them are coaches and healers themselves. A lot of them have done all the work. And they're, and I want to say this for those of you who are listening, for the ladies in my program, for everybody, right? Like in so many areas of your life, you probably are amazing. You probably kill it. You're impressive. You're incredible. You show up. You're like, you make it look easy. And that's why it can be so maddening when you show up like such a badass in every area of your life. And then you get into an intimate relationship with someone, something happens, and you feel like you're reverting back to a 13-year-old version of yourself. And you're going, oh my God, like I've done so much work. I've come so far. I've learned so much. I'm a badass in every single area of my life. But when I get into an intimate relationship with someone, I feel stuck. The same things come up. I act out in the same patterns. I get tight. I get anxious. I do the same things that I swore I would never do again. And here I am finding myself, being needy or being desperate or undervaluing myself or not speaking my truth or avoiding difficult conversations or whatever it is, right? And I want to address that today. Because this is, I want to say that this is so true, no matter how much work you've done. Intimate relationships are like the biggest teachers. I've often said this is why like I wanted to become a relationship coach in the first place, is because of all the areas of life, nothing is quite this juicy, right? Yeah, like, I could have been a business coach, like business is cool and all that, but like, nothing is quite this juicy. Nothing really gets to the heart of the matter the way our intimate relationships do. Nothing just really gets in there. If you listen to the podcast, then you've heard me say this before, but I want to say it again for those of you who haven't heard it, is that our intimate romantic relationships access the same place within us that our childhood relationships with our parents did. No other relationship really gets that deep. You go to work and you put on your front and you're awesome, you're strong, you're powerful, you're doing your thing. You're with your friends and you're out in your life and you're doing your thing and you play it cool and you've got it, you feel good. But then something happens in our most intimate relationships where we feel like our worth is on the line, where we feel like there's a real need to earn this person's acceptance, to earn their approval, to be liked and accepted and loved by them. And something happens in that deep, intimate dynamic that triggers something raw and primal, something at the very core of who I am as a human being. And it's terrifying. And when we experience rejection in that kind of context, it's not the same kind of rejection we might experience in other areas of our life. It's the kind of rejection that feels like if I was a child and my mother dropped me off on a street corner and just left me to die there because I couldn't take care of myself. That's what it feels like. And I want to say that's not what it is. Of course, you're not going to die. Of course, you're going to live. Of course, life is going to go on, but it feels that way. It hits that deep because it triggers that same part of us. And those of us who are used to doing the work. So if you're listening to this podcast, if you're live with me on Instagram today, you're probably a pretty smart person. People who aren't highly intelligent wouldn't really vibe with this work. You're probably a pretty smart person. You're deep, you're insightful, you're wildly intelligent. And what you're probably doing is weaponizing your intelligence against yourself. You've probably done a lot of courses and programs and a lot of workshops and things. And you've probably read a lot of books and listened to a lot of podcasts. And you've probably educated yourself and you know all about attachment theory and you know all about the nervous system and all about all this stuff. And you've thought that if I can learn enough, I can escape myself. And this is the fundamental lie I want to address in today's conversation, that the idea that if I learn enough, I can escape or I can overcome myself. And what I want to suggest is that you can't. No amount of information can override the experiences that are activated in your nervous system. And I want to start by saying this today because what I want to do for everyone who's listening, but what I want to do for everybody listening today is I want to give you permission to have all of your experiences without judgment. I want to give you permission to experience all of yourself without judgment, without shame. No matter how much you know, no matter how smart you are, no matter how many books you've read, no matter how many workshops you've done. And I want to encourage you to stop weaponizing the work against yourself. So stop saying, I've learned so much, I've done so much, I'm so smart, I should be past this by now. Because what happens for a lot of us is we do learn so much. We become so smart. We read all the books, we study all the things, and then we find ourselves feeling tight, feeling stuck, feeling anxious, feeling triggered. We find ourselves acting out in the same way that we did in the past, maybe feeling desperate or helpless or needy, having that anxious attachment activated or having those avoidant tendencies be activated. And we do the things that we said we would never do again, and then we do it. And then we beat ourselves up for it and we say, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why aren't I past this by now? And what I want to say is that perhaps the biggest reason that you're not past it by now is because you're not giving it permission to exist. Yes, you've learned a lot. Yes, you've grown a lot. Yes, you've healed a lot. Yes, you've had all kinds of breakthroughs, and all of that is beautiful. I'm not invalidating any of that. But underneath all the work you've done and everything you've learned and all the growth that you've experienced, underneath all of that was a subtle, insidious message that was being reinforced. And that message was, I'm not okay the way that I am. The message was that something is wrong with me. And so, yes, you wanted to heal, and that's amazing. That's beautiful. I love that you have the awareness that makes you want to work on yourself. That's amazing. A lot of people don't have that. But you've got to also acknowledge these subtle undertones. When you're doing the work to try to escape yourself, to try to overcome yourself, to try to fix something that you feel is wrong with you, when the work is motivated by that desire, I want to fix what's wrong with me. I want to get rid of parts of myself. I want to exile parts of myself. No matter how much you learn, no matter how much you do, no matter how smart you become, underneath it all, you're reinforcing the subtle message that I'm not okay the way that I am. That something is wrong with me. There's still a part of yourself that is being repressed, that is being exiled, that is being unacknowledged, that is being invalidated. And as long as that part of yourself is there and is being felt that way, it can't heal. It cannot heal. So there's a real need here to give ourselves permission to be all of ourselves, not just the pretty parts, not just the nice parts, not just the powerful parts, not just the attractive parts, not just the parts that we think are acceptable and likable and what everybody's going to want from us, but the parts of ourselves that we don't like, the parts of ourselves that we reject, the parts of ourselves that we wish were not there. Healing cannot really happen until we embrace and accept those parts of ourselves. And this is how healing work ends up becoming a weapon. Healing work becomes a weapon when it's used to invalidate and exile the parts of myself that I feel are not acceptable. And when we invalidate and exile parts of ourselves, here's what happens. They go underground, but they don't disappear. And so we read a book or we did a workshop and it's like communicate your boundaries and do all these things. And we start doing what we know we're supposed to do. We start doing the quote, right thing. But we're doing it not from a felt sense of reality, but from a place of this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the person I'm supposed to be. And inside there's a disconnect where we want to be that person. Sometimes we think we're that person, but underneath it all, we don't quite believe it. We're not quite rooted in it. And that part of ourself that we exiled went underground, but it didn't die. It didn't disappear. And then what happens is we get into a truly intimate situation. a situation where we feel that our worth is on the line, a situation where we, on some level, need something from someone. We need their love, their acceptance, their validation. We need to be wanted by them. And when we're in that kind of vulnerable dynamic, it's not our adult self that's in control there. It's not our highly capable, highly intelligent, highly rational self. It's our emotional self. It's the part of us that's still 2 years old or 5 years old and just wants someone to put their arms around us and hold us and tell us that it's okay. Tell us that we're safe. Tell us that everything's going to be just fine. And that's the part that gets activated in our most intimate relationships. And what I want to say here is that part of you is not something that you want to kill off or overcome or get rid of. That part of you is something you want to love and cherish. So here's the thing. The mind is fast, but the body is slow. So we can learn a lot really quickly. We can be at the gym and have the audiobook on and be going and like we can soak in all this information. We can learn so much. We can learn about inner child healing and nervous system regulation and meditation and spirituality. And we can learn about all this stuff and we can learn it very quickly. We can learn it very, very quickly and we can absorb the information. And there's this seductive misunderstanding that we think that because we know the information, we've integrated it. And there are a lot of people who know a lot of information, a lot of people out there, being coaches and teachers and things and teaching a lot of information that they don't have an embodied experience of. Because having information is not the same as an embodied experience when that information lives in your bones. And a lot of us, what we really need is to stop absorbing information and start embodying the experience that the information is pointing us to. It's like, I think there's a Rumi quote that it goes something to the effect of like, we point at the moon, but when I point at the moon, it's not the moon. It's just my finger pointing. And it's like that. It's like the work, the material that we read in the books or that we learn in a course, the material is not the experience. It's just pointing to the experience. And absorbing information creates a false sense of arrival. This is why I want to share a little bit because my Inspired Love program is beginning next week. We have a few more spaces left for anyone who's interested. But I want to share just a little bit here about what I do in my program because what I'm not going to do is give you a bunch of information. The women who come into my program, they know it all already. A lot of them are coaches, teachers, healers. They know it all already. See, the problem that I work with around my clients is not like, teach me about this stuff because I've never heard it before. The problem I address is I know everything, and yet I find myself still stuck in the same patterns. I've read all the books, I've done all the work, but for some reason, I still find myself stuck in these same patterns. And so what we do in my program, it's not about teaching you anything. It's about giving you the opportunity to be seen completely. It's about giving you the opportunity to be raw, to be exposed, to be vulnerable, to have all of you seen, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And what we do in this space is we bring it all out in the open. We see it, we hold it, and we love it. And that's how healing occurs. You see, we step outside of this conversation that lovable looks a certain way, and we step into the essence that lovable is who I am. Even the parts of me that I thought were not lovable are actually still lovable. Even the parts of me that I've been trying to escape from and hide and overcome, even those parts are still lovable. You see, love doesn't come through a curated image of who I think I'm supposed to be. Love comes through authenticity. And authenticity means there is nothing within me that I'm not in touch with. There is nothing within me that I'm not connected to. There is no part of me that I'm stuffing down in favor for a part of myself that I think is more acceptable. You see, so many of us are looking for love. We're looking for a partnership. We're looking for a relationship. We want to fall in love and be loved and accepted and have that person who loves us unconditionally. And in order to get that love, we're twisting ourselves into an image of what we think lovable is. And we're trying to show up in the world as this perfected version of who we think we're supposed to be. Meanwhile, in doing that, we're embodying the energy of not being lovable. The subtle message underneath that is there are parts of me that are not acceptable, and then we want someone else to accept us, but we haven't even really accepted ourselves. We want someone else to love us, but we don't even really love ourselves. And so here's the thing. A lot of us, especially those of you who have done a lot of work, you have outgrown the wound. You have enough awareness, you have enough experience that you have moved past the wound. But what hasn't happened yet is you haven't learned to be with the way that your body protects against the wound. I want to say that again. You see, a lot of you know, oh, well, I grew up in this environment, and because of the environment I grew up in and the way my parents were, I have this kind of attachment style. And because I have this kind of attachment style, I know that I behave in these ways. And so you've connected all the dots. You've got all the understanding. You could write an essay about all your stuff and where it comes from and why it happens and how it shows up. You're that smart. I know you are. And because you know all of that, you say, I'm beyond it. But the thing is, even though you've connected all the dots, even though you have a complete, comprehensive understanding of all the stuff, your body is still protecting against the impression of where that wound originated. There's a part of yourself that still tightens around that. And so when you get into an intimate and vulnerable situation, part of yourself closes down around that. And then when you feel that tightness, when you feel that constriction, when you feel that fear, that launches you into some kind of survival pattern. It could be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Right? So fight, I start an argument. Flight, I run, I hide, I avoid. Freeze, I get stuck, I can't do anything. Or fawn, I beg, I chase, I overextend, I overgive, I make myself overly available. You see, you're past the wound, but your body is still protecting against that original impression. This is why I say the mind is fast, but the body is slow. And when you feel that constriction, that tightness, you say to yourself, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why hasn't all the work that I've done paid off? Why aren't I healed yet? When am I ever going to get it? And what I want to say is, you already do get it. You just haven't learned what to do with the thing that you've gotten. You see, you're not stuck in these patterns because you're broken. You're stuck because you've never felt safe enough to stop trying to fix it. I want to say that again. You're not stuck because you're broken. You're stuck because you've never felt safe enough to stop trying to fix it. You've never given yourself enough permission to look at the unsavory parts of yourself and say, these are okay too. It's not only the shiny, polished, perfect parts of myself that are okay. It's these parts as well. It's all of me that's okay. Everything that exists within me from top to bottom, inside and out, all of it is okay. All of it is lovable. All of it is acceptable. But we don't respond to ourselves that way. What do we say? We say, why am I still triggered? Why am I still feeling insecure? Why am I angry? Why am I needy? Why haven't I healed this already? You see, we're living in the lie that being healed means that I'll never feel uncomfortable ever again, that I'll never doubt myself ever again, that I'll never feel needy or anxious or desperate, that my wound won't be there. I want to say this, for the wound to not be there would be to remove a fundamental part of who you are. Think about this. That wound is where your empathy comes from. That wound is where your ability to connect on a deep level with others comes from. That wound is where your compassion comes from. Does everybody see that? Like that part of you that hurts, that wounded part of you, that is your ability to deeply connect right there. All of it. Without that, you'd be a sociopath. You see, we think that healing means I'm going to be happy and confident and solid all the time, and I'm going to have all the good and none of the bad. No, that's not it. Because the joy that you can experience is directly proportional to your ability to be with your pain. And when you try to shut down the ability to be with your pain, you also shut down your capacity for joy. You see, this is what happens to a lot of us who are overeducated and have done a lot of work. We feel like we shouldn't feel pain anymore. We feel like we should have outgrown our pain. And so we close down our openness to our own pain. And in doing so, we immediately close down our capacity to experience our own joy. They're two sides of the same coin. They're two aspects of the same thing. Being able to experience the greatest joy, vitality, aliveness is in direct proportion to being able to sit with my own darkness. Whatever I exile within myself comes at a real cost to my life and my vitality. And maybe this is the most counterintuitive part because you say, well, I don't want to keep being needy. I don't want to keep chasing love. I don't want to keep getting triggered into these patterns when I fall for someone. I don't want to keep feeling this way. I don't want to keep thinking these thoughts and feeling these feelings and acting out in these same ways. And this is maybe the craziest part about it. The most counterintuitive part. The only way to stop doing that is to give yourself permission to do it. And a lot of us are not willing to give ourselves that permissiveness because we feel so ashamed about it. Our unwillingness to accept those parts of ourselves is the very limitation that prevents us from healing. And when we see that part of ourselves and we think we're supposed to have been beyond it, it sends us into a shame spiral. And we read all the books and we listen to all the podcasts and we do all the work. And what ends up happening is we end up hating ourselves more because those things remind us of who we think we should be, but who we're not. And that's the problem. The problem is not that I get triggered. The problem is not that I feel anxious or avoidant or that I struggle in relationships sometimes. None of that's the problem. The problem is that I don't allow that part of myself to exist. The problem is that I don't create space for that part of myself to be seen, to be held, to be validated. So if you're wondering, I've done all this work, but I still don't feel free. Well, I want to give you this. Liberation is not the absence of any unsavory part of myself. Liberation is the ability to hold all of myself, not just the pretty parts. Freedom doesn't come in the absence of the bad and only the good. Freedom, true freedom, is when I can love myself regardless of what shows up. I said this earlier, but I just want to circle back to it. Most of us want unconditional love from a partner. We want someone who sees us and loves us and accepts us fully. But we think in order to get that, we need to twist and contort ourselves into some perfect version of who we think we're supposed to be. And in doing that, we are sending the message that we're unlovable. We're not being unconditionally loving with ourselves. And then we expect someone else to be unconditionally loving with us. That doesn't work. Because you see, when I have that energy and I show up to a relationship thinking that there are parts of me that you're going to love and there are parts of me that you're not going to love, and I need to be the polished, perfect parts of myself to get your love, what I'm doing in that moment is I am subtly telling myself that I'm not good enough, I'm not whole, I'm not lovable, and that's going to come across in the relationship. No matter how polished and perfect I am, no matter how much I try to hide it, no matter how cool I try to play it, that's going to come across in the relationship. And you're going to feel it. And you're going to say, you know what, this person's really cool. They're really great. A lot of things I like about them, but something doesn't feel right. There's going to be a subtle taste of inauthenticity, a subtle taste of, I'm not really getting this person. They're not really available for me. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, okay, so I hear what you're saying. I hear that I got to love all of myself. I hear that I've got to accept all of myself. I get it. But does that mean I just let my crazy out in every relationship? And I just, does that mean I just be desperate and needy, or that, like, what do I do with that? Well, there's a difference between being present to your crazy, we'll call it. I don't like the word crazy, but just for today's conversation, we'll use it because we all have a little crazy in us, right? So there's a difference between being present to your crazy when it shows up and giving it full reign of the relationship. So let's take an example. Let's say you've become intimately involved with someone and the feelings are really strong, and maybe just because a lot of my audience is this way, I'll just use this example, is a lot of my audience is anxiously attached. So let's say that you get triggered in like an anxious attachment and you start to really crave that person's attention. You start to crave their validation. You start to need them a lot. You start waiting by the phone. Why haven't I heard from them? When am I going to hear from them? Am I okay? Did I do something wrong? Do they like me? Are they losing interest? You start to ruminate and overthink. Now, if you're someone who's done a lot of work, when that happens, when you start to feel all of those kinds of feelings, there's probably going to be a part of yourself that is judging and shaming yourself for it. There's going to be a part of yourself that's going, oh my God, why are you still like this? Why are you've done so much work. You know that you're supposed to breathe, and you know that you're supposed to take a step back. Why are you still like this? And there's maybe the old version of yourself that would have blown up their phone with 30 messages, or that would have, acted out in some kind of way. But maybe you're smart enough now and you've learned enough now that you don't do that. But now you're just holding it inside your body, and it feels like death, and it feels like suffering. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to kill that part of yourself. You're trying to exile that part of yourself. You're saying, I wish this part of me didn't exist. But that part of you needs expression. That part of you needs to be seen. It needs to be able to take up space. You see, healing isn't getting rid of that part of yourself. Healing is recognizing that that part of yourself is valid, is worthy of love, is worthy of expression. Now, that doesn't mean that you turn around and blow up their phone with 30 text messages. But it might look something like this. First, you sit with it. You don't make it bad. You don't make it wrong. You don't make it mean that you're unlovable. You don't make it mean that you're unworthy. You just sit with it. You acknowledge it. You feel it. This is integration. And then as you sit with it and you feel it, you realize that it's actually very valid. You see, you're not being unnecessarily needy, but there is a real need here that is worthy of being named and seen and given some sort of expression. And so maybe after you sit with it for a little while, when the time is right, when it's appropriate, you might reach out to the person. And you might say, I want to be honest with you about something. I haven't heard from you in a little while. Or, it took several hours to respond to that text. And this isn't a criticism. I just want to share this with you because I just want to be honest about it. That made me a little anxious. That made me a little nervous, and this is my thing. This is how I get sometimes, is when I'm waiting to hear from someone and I don't hear back, it's really uncomfortable for me. And I wanted to let you know that because as we build this relationship, I think it's something that you need to know about me. And I'd appreciate it if, you could do your best to respond to me because you know that when I don't hear from you, it's going to feel that way. And I just think it would be really kind if you could make a point to respond when you're able. If you're busy, I get it. I'm not saying you need to drop everything and respond in the moment, but if you could have that awareness in our relationship and try to make a point to honor that. Now, what you're doing is that same part of you that in the past would have caused some kind of manipulation. In the past, you would have tried to withhold your vulnerability there, or you would have tried to control and manipulate the situation. Right? Now, that same part of you is becoming a bridge for connection. This is intimacy. This is real intimacy, what I'm talking about. Intimacy is into me you see. So what you're doing is you're saying, here's a little window into my soul. Here's a little window into my heart. I'm going to reveal this part of myself. And because I reveal this part of myself, you're not just getting the perfect polished parts of me, you're getting all of me. The good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And here's the thing. I'm smart enough and intelligent enough, and I know how to regulate myself and be with myself. So it's not going to come out manipulative. It's not going to come out twisted. It's not going to come out with me blowing your phone up with 30 text messages. It's going to come out as an authentic, heartfelt, vulnerable, self-aware moment where I reveal myself with truth, with honesty. And I see if you can hold it. I see if you're the kind of person who can truly connect with me on that level. You see, I really want to presence the power of this. The very part of you that you've judged and exiled and criticized and carried shame around, that very part of you is the bridge to intimacy when you allow it to be. That part of you is not something that you need to kill. It's something like it's a gift. It is a rich, raw, powerful, real part of yourself. But it only becomes that when you're not carrying shame around it. It only becomes that when you have allowed yourself to love even that part. And so this becomes the question. Can you love yourself on that level? Can you see all of you? That sensitive, vulnerable, heartfelt part, that tender part. It's not any less good than the powerful, capable, strong, intelligent, all those bright, shiny parts of yourself. This part is not any better or any worse than this part. They're the same. They're equal. They're both equally beautiful. They're just different. But it was you who named one good and one bad. And I want to say this, it wasn't just you. It was an entire culture. It was an entire world around you that taught you to name one good and one bad. You didn't just wake up one day and start hating parts of yourself. You have been systematically trained to hate those parts of yourself since the day you were born. That is the very condition that wounded us in the first place. And when you use your healing work as a way to try to overcome those parts of yourself, all you're doing is reinforcing the original wound that says, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. There's something wrong with me. And this is the one shift. It's a subtle shift. But maybe it's the hardest bridge to cross, because anybody can read a book. Anybody can listen to a podcast. Anybody can sit in a class and take notes and gain a bunch of information. That's really the easier part. And I want to say, especially for the women, because most women have been trained to be good girls, to be acceptable and pleasing and polished and neat and pretty and all of those things. And so there's like this chronic good girl syndrome, and the healing work just becomes a way to shut out everything that I think is not part of that good girl image. But you see, this is actually where this is the most radical part of it, because this is the only part that matters. As long as you're still trying to fix something in yourself, all you're doing is playing into the old conditioning. And it doesn't matter if you dress it up in spiritual language. It doesn't matter if you dress it up in jargon about inner child healing and all these names and all this language that we see on social media. It doesn't matter how much you dress it up and how pretty you make it. If you're doing it to try to fix something that you think is wrong or broken inside of you, then all you're doing is reinforcing the original wound. So let's talk about shame for a moment. Shame is the lowest vibrational state that a human being can experience. Let me put it this way. If you lived in complete and total shame, which most of us never live in complete and total shame, we have pockets of shame that surface from time to time. But I just want to, just to really presence what shame is, I want to put it this way. If you lived in complete and total shame, and you stayed there for any amount of time, you would eventually die. You would just lose the will to stop living. Your energy frequency would have gotten so low that it just literally could not sustain your life anymore. That's how low the frequency of shame is. Now, like I said, none of us live in complete and total shame. We have pockets of shame that get triggered, that get surfaced. It's like, imagine like something you're carrying in your back pocket, and it's always there, but most of the time it's inactive, and then something happens and it just jumps out and it's in your face. And most of us are running from shame. So I want to define shame. Shame is the feeling that I'm unworthy of love and belonging. Simple as that. And most of us experienced it for the first time in very early childhood. And we didn't like it then. And we've been running from it ever since. And most healing work that's out there, quote, healing work, most of that work that's out there, self-improvement work, is done with the intention of bypassing shame. The whole New Age spiritual movement, the love and light movement, is often full of people who are carrying around crystals and, saying love and light to everyone, while also carrying a mountain of repressed shame. There's the term spiritual bypassing. That's exactly what it is. Spiritual bypassing is going around saying love and light while I have a monkey of shame on my back who won't let me go. So how do we heal shame? Because that's really at the root of this. And there are a couple things that are needed to heal shame. Shame heals in relationship with someone else. You cannot heal it in isolation. This is the most important part of everything I'm going to say today. So I really want everyone to get this. You cannot heal shame in isolation because as long as it's secret, there's still an element of it where you believe it's not okay, it's not acceptable. Shame only heals when it is released out in relationship with someone, when it's expressed within a safe container and it's met with love and acceptance. That is the only way to truly heal shame. As long as you keep it private, there's a part of you that says, this part of me isn't acceptable. If you weren't believing that, you wouldn't keep it private. Is everyone with me on this? You keep it hidden, you keep it private because you believe it's not acceptable. So the only way to really heal it is to not keep it private. That's when you've proven to yourself that now it's acceptable. So shame heals when you allow yourself to be seen within a safe space, within a safe container. You allow someone you trust to hold that space for you. You're seen in the shame, in all of you, in the good, the bad, and everything in between. And in that, you're received and you're held. And the person on the other side is saying, I see you, I get it, I love you, I understand, I empathize. There is nothing that's wrong with you here. These are just some defenses you've built. It's not who you are. That's how shame heals. And there's no other way. This is the magical thing about it, is once you have that experience, once you've really had someone see you, and you've been held in that safety when you've exposed all of it, and you've been held in that safety, it doesn't have the power it used to. So then you go back into your life and you get rejected by someone, and it doesn't really mean that much because you've already experienced that part of you is okay. And this is where freedom comes from. You see, freedom cannot be found in a book. It cannot be found in a podcast. And I really appreciate all of you listening to the podcast. So I'm not telling you to stop listening, but I'm saying, excuse me, all we're doing here is we're pointing at the moon. This is not the moon. You can't sit in isolation and listen to a podcast and think you're going to heal your shame. It's only going to be healed when somebody sees it and holds it and loves it. When you stop keeping it secret, that's when you get free of it. See, I see this question from Lindsay. What if you accept it while you're healing at home alone for a while? Lindsay, this is what I want to say to you. Say this for Lindsay, say it for everybody. If you were really accepting it, you wouldn't just need to keep it at home alone. You would have the freedom to share it with someone. If you're keeping it home alone, it's because part of you says this isn't acceptable. That's what I'm getting at here. As long as it's secret, it's still not okay. When you really get that it's okay, the natural expression is to reveal it. Now, that might be a part of the process, Lindsay. That might be a part of the process where you spend the time really looking at it alone, reflecting on it, and that can lead to the courage to share it. But the healing happens in being seen, being accepted, being loved, and being held. That's where the healing happens. I see this question from Chiara. She says, so this shame can be why we are single? Shame is usually the reason somebody's single. There are other reasons. I don't want to say that's the only reason ever. But a lot of times the reason that we're single is because there's a part of ourselves that we're holding shame around, that we haven't fully loved, that we haven't fully accepted. And then we get into relationships with someone and we can go a certain way, but as soon as too much of us starts to get revealed, we sabotage it. You see, if you go too far into an intimate relationship with someone, eventually they're going to see all of you. There's no hiding in that kind of relationship. This is why healing our shame is like essential to having a relationship. Because if you can't let yourself be seen, you can't have a relationship. Or you'll just have very shallow, performative relationships where you play your role and they play their role and there's no real intimacy. And that's the kind of relationship that just makes you want to kill yourself. Because you're doing so much work to have someone in your life and it's completely unfulfilling. And it's just exhausting and draining. It's like the biggest loneliness is not when you're single. The biggest loneliness is when you're in a relationship and you're still lonely. And that's what a relationship is like when you haven't healed your shame. So I want to circle back to this because I can see that a lot of people are resonating right now. And I mentioned this earlier that my Inspired Love program is beginning next week. Starts on Wednesday. And so we have a few spaces left. We're closing down enrollment this week. So if anybody is interested in joining, this is going to be your last chance. What I want to say is that in that program, we have a different approach. I'm not teaching you more tools. I'm not giving you more information. I'm not saying, do this or do that. What we do is we create a space where you can be seen, where you can be held, where you can be loved. I'm going to hold that space for you. The community is going to hold that space for you. And one by one, week by week, we go through each of these processes to reveal just a little bit more, to be seen just a little more fully. And everything that's revealed is met with sacredness. It's held with love. You see, this isn't about addressing all your pathology and all the things that you think make you broken, like most programs do. This is about getting right down to the root of who you are at your core, the beautiful innocence that exists underneath all your stories about yourself. And so week by week, you show up, you reveal, you're seen, you're held, you're loved, you're accepted. And after 8 weeks, you walk away knowing that you're whole. You walk away knowing there's nothing wrong with you. You walk away knowing that there's nothing left to hide. And that's when you become available for real intimacy. Because I know most of you, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're with me live right now, you don't need another lecture. You don't need another lesson. You don't need someone to tell you this is why you're broken and this is what you need to do to fix it. What you need is someone to hold you, all of you, in safety and love and compassion and empathy. And to say that, yes, I see all of this, but it doesn't mean you're broken. And when you share that in relationship with me or in relationship with the community in a program like this, what you're really doing is you're sharing it with yourself. And then you take that safety back into your life. And you start to feel in your bones how whole you are. And it doesn't mean that the shame never surfaces again. That's a part of us. Like I said, it doesn't really go away. But what it means is that when it surfaces, you are now able to meet it with love rather than resistance. Because it's been seen, because it's been held, because it's been loved. This isn't a concept. This isn't an idea. It's not another thing you read in a book. It's a lived, embodied experience where you know in your bones that there is nothing wrong. And so when it shows up, you meet it that way. Because it's been received by others, you now have the ability to receive it in yourself. And that's what wholeness feels like. So then as you go out into your life, and this is the thing where I talked earlier about the trauma responses, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? We all go to one or multiple of those when we get triggered. This is the part where those responses get triggered, but now we no longer need to act out in them because we're not trying to escape ourselves. You see, a lot of you say, I've done all the work, but I'm still repeating the same patterns. Why am I repeating the same patterns? This is why. It's because when that response gets triggered and you think it's not okay, you have to run from it. This leads to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fight, let me argue, let me judge, let me criticize, let me fight with the person. Flight, let me avoid, let me pull back, let me run. Freeze, I'm stuck, I can't move, I can't think, I'm in so much shame that I'm literally paralyzed by it. Or fawn, I beg, I chase, I plead, I overgive, I undervalue myself. Those are all strategies that we use to run from the parts of ourselves that we feel are unacceptable. But once you've truly been seen and held and loved and accepted, you know in your bones, you feel it inside your body, that there's nothing to hide from, there's nothing to run from, there's nothing to avoid. So you can just sit with that part of yourself in love and in acceptance for a moment. And then you go back out into your life and you choose who you want to be. Not because you're avoiding any part of yourself that you think isn't okay, but because you're so in touch and in tune with the totality of who you are that you now get to choose who you want to be because nothing is driving you into any particular reaction. And I just want to go back to something I said earlier. We want unconditional love from another person. That's what we really want in a relationship. That's what we really want in intimacy. Right? We want someone to see us, to choose us, to love us as we are. But we don't create that in relationship with someone else by exiling parts of ourselves and only presenting the perfect parts. We receive unconditional love from another person by being willing to give ourselves that unconditional love first. And so I want to leave you with this. If you're ready to really be seen, to take off the mask, to open yourself up, and to really see that underneath all the programming and all the conditioning, all of the thoughts and fears and the judgments and the criticisms that have told you you're not good enough, that's what's going to happen in this 8-week journey. I'm not going to point to the parts of you that are broken and tell you that you need to fix them. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a space to be seen and felt in the realest way. And you're going to come out of that transformed because you're going to know that there is nothing inside you that is wrong. Yes, if there are parts of yourself that you want to bring into balance, things that you see are a little out of balance and you want to correct, that can happen too. But that only happens from a state of inner peace. It doesn't happen as long as you're continuing to judge those things that are out of balance. So this is the threshold that I'm inviting you to cross. This is the initiation that I'm inviting you to step into, to stop running from yourself, to stop hiding from yourself. And I've created that space and an incredible community of people who are on the same journey with you. Starting next Wednesday, we're going to be spending 8 weeks together. And we're going to be offering the space to each other as we heal and grow together. So if you want to join me, if you're live with me today, just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you the info to get started. If you're listening to the podcast, check the show notes right below wherever you're listening to this episode, and you'll find the details right there. We start a week from tomorrow. So today's Tuesday, tomorrow's Wednesday. We start a week from tomorrow. We're closing down enrollment this week. So if you want to get in, this is going to be your last chance. Make sure to move on it. You need to have a call before you join because this is an invitation-only program. We don't just accept anyone. So, you got to make sure, we need to make sure that you're ready for this work. So you need to have a call before you begin. So if this is something you want to be a part of, make sure that you get moving on it now. With that, I want to say thank you for listening today. Thank you for being with me. Lots of love, lots of blessings. I'll be back with you next week. Take care. Bye. Thanks again for checking out the show. Please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on the most. And I would love it so much if you leave a review and tell people what you think of us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @TheLivingRelationship to connect more closely. And I'm grateful to be supporting you on your journey to love.